welcome to South Asia Today, a show that provides you the glimpses of South Asia. I'm your host Yeshi. Here are the headlines. India-Australia reviews ties, share vision to advance relations in second virtual summit. Third edition of Connect India-Nepal Entrepreneurship Conclave held in Kathmandu. And Sri Lanka battles worst economic crisis. Let's begin the show with India's growing bilateral relations with Australia. During the second virtual summit, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Australian counterpart Scott Morrison made commitments for closer cooperation and enhancing ties in business, education sector, migration and mobility. Both the countries also reviewed the camaraderie and shared their visions to advance this partnership. We have a report.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Australian counterpart Scott Morrison discussed regional issues and agreed to strengthen ties in various other sectors. They reiterated their commitments to a free and fair trade. PM Modi expressed delight over setting up a mechanism for the annual summit between India and Australia, which he said will help prepare a structural system for regular review of relations between the two countries.
हमारी पिछली वर्चुअल समिट के दौरान हमने अपने संबंधों को कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप का रूप दिया था और मुझे प्रसन्नता है कि आज हम दोनों देशों के बीच एनुअल समिट्स का मैकेनिज्म स्थापित कर रहे हैं। इससे हमारे संबंधों के नियमित रिव्यू की एक स्ट्रक्चरल व्यवस्था तैयार होगी।
Ahead of the second virtual summit, Australia had announced the return of 29 antiquities to India.
प्राचीन भारतीय कलाकृतियों को लौटाने की पहल के लिए मैं आपको विशेष रूप से धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं। और आपने जो कलाकृतियां भेजी हैं, इनमें राजस्थान, पश्चिम बंगाल, गुजरात, हिमाचल प्रदेश, इसके साथ कई अन्य भारतीय राज्यों में से अवैध तरीके से निकाली गई सैकड़ों वर्ष पुरानी मूर्तियां और चित्र हैं।
As the summit comes amid the Russian aggression in Ukraine and India's separate stand on the conflict from the Quad members, both the countries also discussed the urgent global steps to avoid further crisis. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said there is a need to ensure that Europe-like events do not occur in the Indo-Pacific region in reference to the Ukraine crisis during the summit.
And I think our Quad leaders' call recently, which gave us the opportunity to discuss Russia's unlawful invasion of Ukraine, but it also gave us the opportunity to discuss the implications and consequences of that terrible event for our own region in the Indo-Pacific and the coercion and the issues that we face here. The tragic loss of life underlies the importance, of course, of holding Russia to account, but cooperation between like-minded liberal democracies is key to an open and inclusive and resilient and prosperous Indo-Pacific.
India and Australia share common values, complementary economies and strong people-to-people links that make both the countries ideal partners.
India and Nepal have strived to strengthen their decades-old ties through consistent engagements in different sectors, including social, political and economic fronts. Whether it is trade, politics or people-to-people connection, the ties have been witnessing a consistent uptick for decades. In the line of the same principle, the Himalayan country Nepal recently hosted the third edition of Connect India-Nepal Entrepreneurship Conclave in capital Kathmandu. The main objective of the conclave was to promote business startups and further strengthen people-to-people connection.
A constant process of strengthening of Indo-Nepal ties touched another feat as Kathmandu hosted the third edition of Connect in International Entrepreneurship Conclave recently. The key objective of the summit was to promote youth entrepreneurship along with sharing experiences of startups between India and Nepal to further bolster Indo-Nepal business ties that have remained intact for years. Speaking on the occasion, Minister of Communication and Information Gyanendra Bahadur Karki said that the government of Nepal had adopted the policy to promote entrepreneurship and startups. The government had taken the investment-friendly policy to keep the economy afloat. Karki claimed that the integrated public service delivery put in place had helped the entrepreneurs to augment their business activities.
The government of Nepal is open to partner with the private investors, innovators and enterprising minds in order to support entrepreneurs. The government has designed and implemented several programs for skill capacity development, financial support, and entrepreneurship development.
More than 300 Nepalis and Indian startups, entrepreneurs, investors, experts, and high-ranking officials from Nepal and India attended the event. Indian ambassador to Nepal, Vinay Mohan Quatra, said that the conclave had provided the business base for the young entrepreneurs, stating that innovation and entrepreneurship figured in the priorities of the government of India. He also expressed his confidence that the conclave would play an important role to enhancing the capacity of the young entrepreneurs and relations between the two nations.
Connect at a very fundamental level gives you that medium, gives you that platform, as Abhishek mentioned earlier on, to connect these two principal drivers, which is the aspiration and achievement. Drivers, you can also call them objectives, you can also call them end goals, but this is if there was a cell for the inner self of the entrepreneurship, it is the aspiration and the achievement which drives the entrepreneurship. And I think the connect-in gives you that medium to take this abundant and positive aspirational energy which is embedded, inherent in a youthful society, and translate it into something concrete.
The day-long event was hosted in 3 panel discussions with over 15 participants from both countries in each session. The organizers are very much confident that the event will serve as a common platform for young entrepreneurs from both countries to discuss, develop new concepts and explore business opportunities in the future. However, India still remains Nepal's biggest trade partner, donor and the supplier of the bulk of consumer goods. And such types of summits help to strengthen bonds and help bring people together.
Let's move to Sri Lanka, which has been facing the double whammy of rising prices and high debt. The people are bearing the impact of it as domestic situation turns increasingly grim. The island nation is battling a foreign exchange crisis that forced the devaluation of its currency and hit payments for essential imports such as food, medicine and fuel. We have this report.
Sri Lanka is witnessing its worst ever economic crisis since its independence in 1948. Millions of people living in the island nation have been suffering because of the widespread power cuts, fuel crisis and high inflation. To resolve the country's economic crisis, the Sri Lankan government will work with the International Monetary Fund.
ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය අරමුදල සමග ඊයේ පැවැත් වූ සාකච්ඡාවත් මේ අරමුණින් කළ එක. ඒ සාකච්ඡාව තුළින් අප බලාපොරොත්තු වන්නේ වසරකට අප ගෙවිය යුතු ණයවාරික ස්වෛරීත්ව බැඳුම් කර ආදිය ගෙවීම් සඳහා ක්‍රමවේදයක් සලසා ගැනීමයි. ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය අරමුදල සමග මා කළ සාකච්ඡාවට පසුව වාසි හා අවාසි අධ්‍යයනය කොට තවදුරටත් ඔවුන් සමග එක්ව කටයුතු කිරීමට මා තීරණය කළා.
The country has foreign debt obligations of around $7 billion in 2022, including prepayment of bonds worth $1 billion in July 2021. It has come to Chinese foreign investment with the hope for better infrastructure, high employment, income, economic stability, thereby increasing the standard of living of the common people. However, they ignored repeated warnings of China's ulterior motives of keeping them indebted and dependent for several years. Opposition leaders led a protest march in Colombo against the worsening economic crisis in the country. One of the most pressing problems for Sri Lanka is its huge foreign debt and debt service burden, in particular to China. It owes China more than $5 billion in debt and last year took an additional $1 billion loan from Beijing to wean off its acute financial crisis, which is being paid in installments. And it's not only China, but other markets too that the government and private sectors that Sri Lanka owes money to. The coronavirus pandemic is one of the main reasons for the country's debilitating economic situation. The pandemic has caused several tourism-related businesses to shut down, leading to a massive loss in revenue.
Now we take a look at some happenings in Asia in our segment called Asia Watch.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met his Indian counterpart Subramaniam Jaishankar in New Delhi after he arrived in the capital on the first visit by a top Chinese official since border clashes in 2020. The top Chinese diplomat visited Pakistan and Afghanistan this week and is set to fly to Nepal on a whirlwind tour of South Asia where China is trying to deepen its influence. Relations between old rivals India and China took a serious turn for the worse with a June 2020 clash in the Ladakh region on the Himalayan border in which at least 20 Indians and 4 Chinese soldiers were killed. Neither China nor India announced Wang's visit before he landed in New Delhi late on Thursday. The two sides are expected to discuss their border tension as well as Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Both consider Russia a friend and both have rejected Western calls for commendation of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia calls its action a special military operation. Indonesian fried chicken seller Firmansyah and his wife Tri Maimunah spend most of their day working to put food on the table and have little time to spend with their 4 young children. But now, thanks to a newly launched mobile app that aims to help develop cognitive and emotional skills for kids aged between 0 to 5, the couple are receiving guidance on how to make of the scant time they have to play with their children educational. Developed by Australia-based Mindro Foundation, the Thrive by 5 app was launched in Indonesia with the hope of making high-quality early childhood education more accessible to parents such as Firmansyah. Indonesia, the world's 4th most populous nation, provides a 12-year mandatory education for children starting from the age of 7. But a 2021 World Bank study found, on average, students only learn for 7.8 years. Such digital programs are not new, but Mindro app was designed to fit users from different cultural backgrounds, its director Andrew Hunter said. Following its rollout in Indonesia, Afghanistan and Namibia, the foundation is working for the app to reach 30 countries across Africa, Asia, South America and Middle East by 2024. Tokyo residents welcomed the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions imposed on Tokyo and 17 other prefectures as a wave of infections caused by the Omicron variant continues to ebb. The so-called quasi-state of emergency curbs were applied in 18 of Japan's 47 prefectures, centered on limiting hours for eateries and other businesses. The lifting of the ban, a decision made by the government last week, means bars and restaurants would no longer be subjected to restrictions such as to close early, take in fewer guests, and stop serving alcoholic beverages. An Omicron wave led to record infection rates in capital and throughout Japan in February. Tokyo logged 6,502 new coronavirus cases on Monday. Navigating their way through mud and narrow tracks in the mountains, 37 off-road drivers competed against each other in Iraq's Kurdistan region. Letting off steam and testing their upgraded vehicles, the drivers came from all over Iraq's Kurdish region to participate in the off-road racing festival that rewarded the best with medals. Sponsored by the British Silver Hook Engine Oil Company, which prepared the Seniors track, the festival was acclaimed by audiences and drivers as the largest off-road racing gathering in recent years. Not all cars made it until the end of the track, as some had to be towed away. But we are like brothers in this game, off-road driver and spectator Ako Kamal said. The festival included 4 tracks, the most difficult of which encompassed a muddy terrain. Lieutenant Governor of India's federal Jammu and Kashmir territory, Manoj Sinha, said that territory will be ready for an investment of about $9.1 billion in the next 6 months during his meeting with the delegation of the United Arab Emirates. A delegation from the UAE reached Indian Kashmir on Sunday to explore investment opportunities with a focus on entrepreneurship, tourism, and the hospitality sector. India is the second largest trading partner of the UAE, where each year billions of dollars in remittances are sent home by more than 3 million Indians working in the Gulf state.
Now, in our cultural section, we will take you to the land of festivities, India's Manipur state, where merriment and mirth making go on round the year. Yoshang is one of the most important festivals of Manipur that combines both Hindu and indigenous traditions. Recently, it was celebrated with immense fervour across the state.
The state of Manipur got soaked in the festive spirit of joy as it celebrated its most awaited festival of Yoshang, the 5-day extravaganza that marks the onset of spring. On the first day of the festival, a small hut, also known as Yoshang, is constructed with bamboos and straws. Inside it, the idol of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the founder of Gauda Vaishnavism, is kept. The devotees keep a number of sweets and candles in front of the hut. As the sun sets, a ritualistic aarti is performed, and after the sweets are distributed among the devotees, the hut, which is regarded as the symbol of good over evil, is burnt. As part of the festival, young boys and girls dressed in traditional attire go from door to door for monetary donations or nakathang. They take special delight in this activity, and the money collected is spent on merrymaking. Music concerts are also organized at various places to celebrate the festival. On the second day, groups of local bands travel to the city's Govindji temple while singing devotional hymns accompanied by musical instruments such as dhokals, cymbals and seashells. They converge at the temple to celebrate Pichkari Numit or Pichkari Day. Pichkari is a water gun commonly used to squirt colored water during the festival. After offering special prayers at the temple and performing all the religious rituals, devotees drench each other in colored powders and water, just like the holy festival is celebrated across the country.
ꯌꯥꯝ ꯂꯨꯅ ꯂꯧꯏ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯤꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯏꯄꯥ ꯏꯄꯨꯒꯤ ꯍꯥꯛꯇꯛꯇꯒꯤ ꯂꯥꯛꯄꯅꯤꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯍꯦꯛꯇ ꯏꯔꯥꯏ ꯂꯥꯏꯅ ꯃꯨꯊꯠꯆꯕ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤꯁꯨ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯊꯃꯣꯏꯅꯨꯡꯗ ꯌꯥꯖꯅꯤꯡꯗꯦ ꯍꯣꯂꯤ ꯂꯥꯛꯄꯁꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯊꯣꯏꯗꯣꯛꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯖꯅꯤꯡꯉꯥꯏꯗꯤ ꯂꯩꯖꯗꯦ ꯃꯔꯝꯗꯤ ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯤꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗ ꯍꯣꯂꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤꯗꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯏꯃꯥ ꯏꯟꯗꯣꯟꯁꯤꯡꯒꯤ ꯏꯄꯥ ꯏꯄꯟꯁꯤꯡꯒꯤ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯅꯨꯡꯉꯥꯏꯔꯕ ꯅꯨꯃꯤꯠꯅꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤꯒꯤ
It's beautiful to experience Holi like this, such colorful and so rooted to the culture. Women all beautifully dressed up and giving all importance to the flowers and the colors around. So it's beautiful to see men and women enjoying Holi here in the temple.
The 5-day sports festival, held in every nook and corner of the state, is another important aspect of Yaoshang celebration. Many games which are easy to play and fun to watch to motivate the young ones to participate in various sports activities. This is the most remarkable difference between the Holi festival in Manipur and other parts of the country. The primary idea behind Yaoshang Sports Meet is to allow the energetic youth of the state, which is already known as the powerhouse of sports in the country, to hone their skills in different sports.
So basically, our locality, Brahmapur Nahabam, has got a lot of athletes over here, starting from archery, basketball, football, wushu. There are many athletes over here. And this is like a junction over where all the players meet, and it's always one of the best place in Manipur to gather for sports. So the Yaoshang Sports Festival over here is a grand, and everyone in Manipur knows that this place is the hub for Yaoshang Festival.
In modern times, there has been a trend of channeling the festive energy towards sporting event to spot out talent at the grassroots level, and Yaoshang Festival is a great example of it.
It's time for me to wrap up today's episode. We will be back next week at the same time. This is Yeshi signing off on behalf of the entire production team of South Asia Today. Goodbye and take care.